Ms. Eichler, can you find me a 4.0? Oh, I got one. Thank you. Thank you.
You can't just give her.
She earned it.
This is on. So.
You're being a bad guy.
All right, we're just waiting for one other group, so we'll get started here very shortly. There's a purse. Somebody has a purse.
I didn't want to go in. It's so small.
I know. It's very cute though.
Welcome to our college night, Demystifying the College Process. My name is John Klassen. I'm the Director of College Counseling. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I know that you had a great presentation previously, and I just want to acknowledge our wonderful counseling staff here and thank them for helping to put on this wonderful night. They are the counseling professionals. They're constantly traveling, attending conferences, collaborating with professionals so they can bring information to your sons or daughters. And so I really appreciate their efforts on a night like tonight to come out and give this information. Now I will say this, to be honest, I was a little nervous about this night happening because about a week ago, there was some conversation. I don't know if you guys were paying attention to what was going on out there, but there was this thing called the Powerball that was about $1.5 billion. And so we played a few tickets, and a couple of people had some pretty grand ideas of what they might do. And some of it didn't necessarily mean coming back to GBS. But we're here, we're giving the presentation. The bad part for the people on the stage, however, is we had this great idea also that for this game that we could give maybe the winner a full scholarship somewhere. But unfortunately, we can't do that either tonight. So I do appreciate our wonderful volunteers here on the stage. We're going to start off with a little admissions game and talk a little bit about the talking points regarding the admissions process. And so if you kind of bear with me here, we're going to go over just a few things. And again, for our wonderful volunteers, I appreciate you coming up here on the stage. I heard some of you say, do I have to talk? No, you don't have to talk. We just have to move a little bit. Just make sure that you don't move too far and come off the front of the stage here. So we're going to talk a little bit about a few different statements regarding the college admissions process. And either positively or negatively, our wonderful volunteers are going to move back and forth. I'm going to talk a little bit about, again, the college admissions process. So we're going to start off. If you've taken an exceptionally strong academic program, please move up 2 spaces. So as you know, we'll talk about this further. Schools are certainly looking for strong transcripts. Probably the number one thing that schools are looking for. We're going to talk more about that briefly. So
they can see your GPA.
Yeah, hold those GPAs up if you could. Thank you. Number 2, if you clearly stated that this college is your first choice by making an early decision application and commitment, move up 2 spaces. So early decision, again, we'll talk about early decision tonight and the implications for early decision. But certainly early decision is a huge yield for schools because you're committing to that school. They know that they're going to admit those for retaining students at 100% yield. And so, again, that's a real positive for schools. If you do not know any of your teachers well enough to feel comfortable asking for a recommendation, move down back 2 spaces. Who is that? Mr. 2.5 didn't feel like approaching any teachers and making those connections. And we talk to our students certainly about making those connections with the teachers. Get to know your teachers. It's so important that they can write that letter of recommendation and anecdotal information when they're writing that. And so again, a very important point. If when you submitted your college essay, you forgot to change the name of the college you were applying to, move back 3 spaces. Who is that? Oh, Mr. 3.7. Whoops. Colleges want to see they want to know that they're being loved. And if you forget to change the name, it doesn't sit, well in the college admissions office. All right, if you are a legacy, move up 2 spaces. So this whole idea of legacy is quite an interesting thing. And if you read some of the literature out there, there was actually a professor at Harvard that did a study of about 130,000 students, and he found for primary legacies at elite schools a 45% advantage for those students who apply. So some of you, when you hear one student got in, another student might have not gotten in, primary legacy can have certainly a big impact. Number 6, if you did not write the optional college essay, move back 1 space. So there really is no optional when it comes to the college application process. Although a lot of your sons and daughters will come and ask me, they'll come and ask me oftentimes, Mr. Classen, that says optional, but I really have to fill this out. Yeah, you do. You want to make sure that you have the most complete application possible. And so we certainly encourage that. If the topic of your essay was sports as a metaphor for life, move back 1 space. 3.5. And we'll talk a little bit more about the essay, but certainly you want to be original. And sports as a metaphor for life has been used time and time again. It puts admissions officers to sleep, and it's one of the things we want to move away from. Number 8, if you visited the college, had an alumni interview, and filled out the questionnaires on the college website, move up 1 space. And we'll talk a little bit more about demonstrated interest during the program, but demonstrated interest for schools is kind of a hot topic out there. We tracked it this year as colleges came through the College and Career Center. And again, we're happy to share that information with you. Number 9, if you will be the first in your family to attend college, move up 2 spaces. Uh-oh, careful, watch the edge there. First generation, again, is something that certainly schools are looking to recruit. So that means that if you were the first in your family to go to college, again, that can be a statistical advantage when it comes to the admission process. If you did not participate in any extracurricular activities, move back 3 spaces. Mr. 3.3, taking it easy. So again, we talk to our students, extracurricular activities, a very important part of that application. They want to see that students are doing other things except just, their academics. They want to see you involved in those extracurricular activities and really pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. If you participated in a significant community service project, move up 1 space. Anybody? 3.7 coming back. They're going to come back there. Again, community service projects. Again, very important to have that resume when you apply to those colleges. Number 12, you wrote a letter to the college admissions officer to explain the extenuating circumstances surrounding a D grade. Move up 1 space. Coming back, 3.7, here we go. So again, if you do have a bad grade, don't try to hide it. It's important that you talk about that. That could be in an optional section on the common application. It could be within an essay. It could certainly also be within a counselor letter of recommendation. What were the reasons for that drop in grade? Was it a health concern? Concussions are a big thing now. You want to make sure that you explain those extenuating circumstances to the college. Number 13, if you have a non-flattering video of your pre-prom party posted on YouTube under your name, you know what the result's going to be here. Move back 2 spaces. Probably should be more than that, but we'll only go 2. Who's that? 3.5. All right, that one speaks for itself. If you applied early decision or single choice early action to more than 1 college, you're on the game. Have a seat. Give Miss McBride over there your card. Who is that? Nobody wants to leave. Nobody wants to leave up there. So, college admissions officers, they talk. They meet at conferences. There's a lot of them are friends. It's a small world. Actually, I worked at Lake Forest College for 4 years before I came to Glenbrook South, and it's amazing how many of those conversations take place. And sometimes I think students think, I'll apply ED here and I'll apply ED here, and they'll be able to find out. Guess again. And so that's something that we definitely want to discourage when we talk to our students. And our students are really good about that. If you got caught drinking at a campus overnight visit, and Ms. McBride, your card, you're also out of the game. Look at the 2.5 guy. Again, I think that one speaks for itself. All right, 16, college X receives a deposit from you that was made out to college Y, and when college X calls college Y and learns that it also received a deposit from you, but made it out to college X, you're out. So we call that double depositing, and again, very unethical. Right, you're only supposed to deposit to 1 school, and so that's, anybody out up there or no? Nobody? Yeah, there he is. He's taking his time. So no double depositing. And number 17, if the name on the college library is the same as your last name, and it's not a coincidence, move all the way up to the front. Who is that?
How about the college library is named after your
Here he is, 2.3. Come on up. He's our big winner. Let's give him a hand, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Mr. Brian will take those cards from you. So we make light of it a little bit in this college admissions game. And again, tonight the purpose is to hopefully provide some clarity in this whole college process. And we start with this game a little bit to release some of the anxiety right off the bat, because I know that this process can induce certainly a lot of anxiety. And I think that if you listen to tonight's presentation and you take the time to go through the processes that are needed, really, I think it could be a wonderful process for both you and your sons and daughters. So the first thing I want to talk about a little bit is this is our data from last year, just to give you a little synopsis of our class of 2015. And so our students applied to about 385 different schools, and they're attending 162 different schools. About 80% of our students will stay in the Midwest. Okay, and so certainly our students will look all over the world. As you can see, we had 8 attending international colleges. But in the end, about 80% of our students do stay in the Midwest. This past year, we had 98% of our students go on to either 4- or 2-year colleges, okay? For a public school, that's really good. I mean, if you look at the statistical numbers, across the nation, those are great numbers. The average student's going to apply to about 5 colleges, and that's right where we talk about, any of the counselors, when we're talking with your sons or daughters, we use a number of 7 in terms of the schools that you should be applying to, okay? And within that number 7, we say there should be 1 or 2 safety schools in terms of the numbers as you look at, the ACT and the GPA and, kind of what they're looking for, that there's a really good chance that you're going to get into those schools. And then we talk about 2 to 3, 4 target schools that they should have. Again, the mid 50% ACT GPA kind of matches up with those schools. And then, some of those reach schools, 1 or 2 reach schools, not 20 reach schools, which sometimes I'll have students come in and they'll lay a list on my desk and they'll say, here, Mr. Classen, here's what we're starting off on. And I'll look at the list and we'll have to have that conversation. Again, I think if you're doing your homework, you should come up with this list of about 7 to 8 schools that you're going to apply to once September, October, November rolls around next year. And even though that seems like a long time from now, it's going to be here sooner than you think. So again, our students applied to about an average of 5 colleges. We have 27 students competing in college athletics, and that's at the Division 1, 2, and 3 level. So again, our students are going on doing great things. Just a quick list of the schools. These are the top 10 schools from last year that our students are attending. Oakton and U of I tend to be our kind of number 1, number 2 kind of historically for the last 5 years. And again, just kind of give you an idea. You can see again that Midwest influence on those top 10 schools. But the other neat thing is that our students do look throughout the country, and that's a lot of fun. I mean, I get to travel to a lot of different schools as part of my job. It's great to see some of these different opportunities and open up our students' minds to those different schools. The spring to-do list. So where should you start to think about, what types of things should you start to think about doing as we move into the spring? The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to meet with your counselor to discuss your post-high school plans. And that's going to happen during the first week of February. And I know the counselors talked about that in their small groups. I would also encourage you to make an appointment with me so that we can sit down and talk about the college process and talk about college lists. I would encourage you and invite you to be part of that because I always think it's better to have the parents with the student there because sometimes there's a little, as you know, a little miscommunication at this age. And so it's always nice to have you there as we talk about what your plans are. You should also be researching colleges and visiting colleges. This is a great time to start to think about, what you want in a college, the size that you want, the location that you want, etc. And then registering for the ACT or SAT. I think probably most of you are aware at this point that the state is not going to offer an ACT this year as it stands today. So what that means is that your son or daughter is going to have to sign up for a national testing, either the ACT or the SAT. Now, historically, most of our students, a majority of our students typically take the ACT. And that was given before by the state in the school. And so we registered students for that. So if you had a son or daughter, that had done that in the past, you're used to that. Well, this year, that's not going to happen. So you have to make sure that you get on to act.org and sign up for a national ACT. And I'll give you the test dates that are coming up here in a minute. But I want to make sure that we talk about that. If you're not aware of that, some of you may or may not be aware of that. Okay? You will need at least one test on record to apply to colleges. And then requesting teacher letters of recommendation. I think as you start to move into the spring and before we leave for the summer, I think it's great for your son or daughter to contact a teacher, especially a teacher that currently obviously has in the class, and have them start thinking about the potential of writing a letter of recommendation for them. Because they might write down and jot down some notes at that point, about that particular student, some anecdotal information that's really important in that letter of recommendation. And, some teachers do have quotas. They might say, I'm only going to write for 30 students. And after that, I'm going to have to say no. And so I think it's important to identify some of those teachers even this year. And I think that's okay to do. Okay. Here's just some of the resources and upcoming programs. I'll go over this very quickly. I don't spend a lot of time on this because this will also be on our website. Certainly the College and Career Center, feel free to stop down there if you have any questions. Kathy Hargesheimer is my executive assistant. Knows also a ton about the college process. She does a great job assisting families with questions that they might have. And obviously myself would be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. There's a gap year at Mature that's going to happen at the end of the month, and that's January 30th from 1 to 3. That may or may not interest some of you, but I wanted to put it up there so that you have that information. Again, that's at New Trier High School, and they'll have a lot of different gap programs attending there. And then we'll have our college fair at GBS on April 14th. That is a great opportunity for you to come and see a lot of schools. We'll have close to 200 schools signed up. And it's kind of like going to the mall where you have a bunch of different schools where you can go up and get information and ask questions about those particular schools, and they'll give you all kind of flyers and knickknacks to take home with you so that you remember their college name by it. But it is a great opportunity to see a lot of schools in one setting. And so I'd highly recommend that you put that on the calendar and that you come on April 14th to GBS for the college fair. We're going to institute a college application workshop this year. That's new in August, just to take some of that anxiety out of filling the common application out. It's not necessarily difficult to fill out, but there are some quirks to it, and sometimes students have specific questions about the common application. So stay tuned. That will be probably the week or two before school starts, and we'll have seminars running probably every hour for a couple of days for those common application workshops. So that would be a great resource. And then we'll have senior groups in September where we'll bring the seniors in and we'll actually talk about the application process, step by step, what they need to do, what our processes are here at Columbia South in order to submit an application, submit a transcript. And then we'll also have a parent night, so we'll invite you back again in September, and we'll take you through that same process as well, so that everybody's on the same page. And then we'll have a college finance night in September. This is a big change. So some of you may or may not know, but the government instituted something called prior, which means that for the upcoming year, instead of filing your FAFSA after January 1st, you'll be able to file it October 1st. Okay, that's a big change. And so what we've done is we moved our programming up. We used to have our college finance night in January. We're moving it up to the end of September. We don't have an exact date set yet, but we will make sure that college finance night happens before you're able to fill out that FAFSA. We want you to be educated about the process of filling out the FAFSA. We will also have what are called a FAFSA workshop, where we invite professionals in to physically help you fill out the FAFSA. And that will most likely be the first week in October, the second week in October. And the reason being is some federal aid can run out. And so that we want to make sure that you're filling those out as soon as possible so that you're eligible for the most aid and for the most scholarship. Okay, so we will change some of our programming to meet those demands. So what are colleges looking for? It's a question that I get asked a lot. I know our counselors get asked this question a lot. What do they prioritize? And you'll get a lot of different answers. I have a lot of people that think test scores are the most important thing. The transcript is the most important thing. Anybody you talk to in higher ed, or any articles that you read, unless they're being sent by someone from the test prep companies, will say that the transcript is the most important thing. It's your body of work. And one of the jobs of the counselors and myself is certainly as college reps come in, we want to make them aware of how great of a high school Columbia South is. And so they truly value the curriculum here at Columbia South. They understand the rigor and the demand. And so as we start to talk about, the most important thing with our students, we talk about the transcript. Okay? Then test scores, and then, you kind of get into that essay, the letters of recommendation, the extracurricular activities. Those are some of the other things that kind of round out that process. And then at the bottom, I kind of threw build the class because that's really the wild card, And sometimes you hear those stories about a student with great test scores, and great grades, and great extracurricular activities, but they didn't get into the school that they really were probably a good target. And sometimes schools have agendas, and they want to build a certain class. You know, University of Wisconsin told us this year, we're really looking outside the Midwest this year. We're putting an emphasis on going outside the Midwest to recruit. The University of Wisconsin was really difficult last year, very selective last year. And so that tells us a little bit this year, you know, where they might be headed. And so again, that sometimes is that wild card. You know, you don't know where a particular school is going to invest in that next year. Okay. So again, we have that, you know, that build the class. And so when we talk to our students, we say, let's be realistic, okay, as you view your transcript. I mean, if you are this guy here, this little buddy here, okay, we might want to pull back a little bit on the academics, right? I mean, he's probably overtaxed. And one of the words I like is eustress versus distress. Eustress being kind of that stress that we need that challenges all of us, right? It pushes us a little bit out of our comfort zone. And distress is that, you know, part where it's uncomfortable and it's not healthy, and we're staying up till 2 or 3 in the morning to try to get our homework done. And, you know, there's impact on health, there's impact on a variety of other things. And so, as parents, I think it's always important to have those conversations with your son or daughter, gently pushing that. Because as we know, high school students sometimes, you know, would rather play on the PlayStation or be on social media or do other things. And it's important also to give them that push to make sure, you know, that they are excelling to the best of their ability, but that they're not pushing themselves to the point of exhaustion. Schools will look at, you know, so I'll give you an example. If you have a student that's getting straight A's in regular classes, and, you know, that student is easily getting their homework done, and they choose not to push themselves, and they want to apply to a school that might be a selective school. Sometimes that can be a disadvantage. Even though a student has perfect grades, they might look at that student and say, well, why didn't they take advantage of the curriculum? Why didn't they challenge themselves? They got straight A's. Why didn't they take that, you know, that honors class? And so it is important to look at that every year and to assess, and that's what the counselors are doing every year when they meet with them during those meetings, to look at their curriculum and align it with what their goals are regarding the college process. So again, I think it's really important to balance that, but it's also important as you talk to your son or daughter to make sure they understand, because I will have students that come into my office, and sometimes they just need that little bit of a nudge to say, well, you can try this honors course. You've been getting an A, you know, in English for the last 2 years, and you're getting a 97 or 98%. Maybe it's time that you push yourself, you know, to that next level. And then I always ask the question, what other things are you doing? What time are you going to bed? You know, what's your lifestyle like? Okay. But again, knowing how important that transcript is, you know, you're not going to be there with the college admissions officer able to translate what's on them. They're going to look at it and they're going to make their assessment based on that transcript. Okay. Testing. So testing is changing a little bit this year for the SAT, and again, that may or may not affect some of you. Again, historically, most of our students have taken the ACT, but some of our students have taken the SAT. But the SAT has made some wholesale changes and has really aligned the SAT to be more achievement-based. In the past, it was an aptitude test. And now it really is more kind of aligned with the ACT in terms of that achievement part. And so just to give you a little idea of the new format, and if you didn't know what the old format is, you know, this will be the new format, and it's really going back to the old score. It used to be a 1600 total score on the SAT. The ACT hasn't changed at all, so if you're familiar with the ACT in terms of the 5 components in the score range of 1 through 36, that hasn't changed at all. But the SAT has changed. It's 2 sections, evidence-based reading and writing, and a math test, and then an optional writing test. And again, there's that word optional, as we talked about before. I wouldn't consider it optional because there are schools that are going to require that. And so when you take these tests, take them with the writing, okay? And then the score range is 400 to 1600. This is probably more information than you need, but I thought I would throw it up there. about the ACT and the SAT, number of questions, time per question. You can see that the SAT get a little bit more time per question, and then sending those scores. So with the ACT, students decide which set of scores that they want to send. With the SAT, there is still that possibility if you decide to do score choice. That means that you can decide which set of tests you want to send to each university. There are some universities out there though that require you to send all tests, so that could be a moot point regarding the SAT. And we will have some question and answer afterwards if you have particular questions about that. Students may take the ACT, SAT1, and SAT2s more than once, and majority of our students will typically take it 2 times probably on an average. And we certainly will have students take it 3 times, 4 times. One thing I will say about testing, if it takes over a student's curriculum, then I think we have a problem. I had a situation probably 5 years ago where I had a parent call me up and said, it was we have to talk about my daughter in her Spanish 4 class because she's really overwhelmed and I think she needs to drop in. So I said, okay, let's go into a little bit more conversation about this. Tell me a little bit about what else she's doing outside. I said, well, she's taking this ACT prep course. And her ACT prep tutor advised her that maybe she should cut down on her academics a little bit to give her some more time for ACT prep. Now, being in college admissions, I about fell out of my chair, and then I got back in my chair and got on the phone and said, "That's terrible advice." When you start to get to the point where your academics are faltering because of ACT prep, then you have an issue. Okay, prep is important. And I'm going to talk in a minute about some of the different resources that we have. I think to familiarize yourself with these tests, absolutely. You shouldn't go into an ACT test cold. There's plenty of opportunities, 3 opportunities out there that you can get comfortable with the test. And really, a lot of it is about test taking strategies. It's an achievement-based test, which means students are learning this information. One of the things I struggle with a little bit is, this push to have kids take tests earlier and earlier. Test prep companies love to do this, and then they have, take the test a year later, and they show these great gains. Well, of course, an achievement-based test, they've had a year of school at a great high school. Their scores aren't going to improve a little bit. So, colleges will take the best scores. I know that there's a lot of fear sometimes. If I send a bad test score, I'm doomed. Again, colleges are looking to admit students, okay? They're looking for those best test scores, all right? The one thing that you should know, it is the student's responsibility to send ACT or SAT test scores. We don't put them on the transcript. And sometimes it's causing a little bit of a problem. I noticed this year because a lot of students, when they take the ACT, the ACT gives you 4 free score choices. Okay, so you can send them free to 4 colleges. If you wait until afterwards, I think it's now up to $15. It'll probably be another $2 next year, or maybe it's $17. Okay, for every school that you want to send it to. And so a lot of students, they're afraid to send it because they're worried that it's going to have a negative impact on their college admissions process. So they wait. And this year, I had a lot of students that were missing deadlines because they hadn't sent an ACT score yet. And they were waiting to send those ACT scores. And they really should have sent those a lot sooner. Okay, so one of the things that you want to be aware of, especially with some of the earlier and earlier deadlines when it comes to early notification, which a lot of those deadlines are in November 1st. You want to make sure that you have those scores in at those dates. Okay, and again, it is a responsibility of the student to send each of those scores. Here's a quick testing schedule just to give you an idea. February, April, and June. So you can see really, my philosophy is, I think, the second half of junior year is a great time to start thinking about taking the ACT or SAT. I don't really necessarily advocate for it the first semester because, again, I advocate for building a really strong transcript. And if you're trying to balance both, it makes it really difficult. There's plenty of time in that second semester if you look at the dates with the February, April, and June date. And really, you have until September of your senior year because there will be an ACT offer in September and October. And so you can take those tests and still have plenty of time to submit those to the colleges that you're applying to. So plenty of time in terms of taking those standardized tests. Okay? Again, we will have and then there's the SAT schedule as well, March 5th, May 7th, and June. So test prep. Glenbrook offers some courses. Maybe some of you have signed up in the bookstore for that. We will have some copies of the dates. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Here at the high school. And we also have some copies as you leave. If you're interested in that, you can grab one of those from the counselors on your way out. That would be a great test prep to look at. One-to-One Learning Center, which is Saturdays and Sundays. It actually begins this weekend. But I did call over one-to-one to say, hey, I'm going to give a talk tonight. If parents, want to sign their son or daughter up for this, is there still time? And they said that they take students up till Friday at about noon this week. So if you're still interested in the one-to-one, it's $375. It comes out to be about $40 per class. So a very reasonable test prep company, one-to-one. They're nonprofit, and so we certainly advocate for one-to-one. I think Sunday's getting pretty full, but Saturday still has a lot of space. And then if you go into Naviance, we purchased Naviance Test Prep, which is a great program. You have to be a self-starter, you have to be a little independent to do it, but you can go in and you'll do a diagnostic test in each of the different categories. And then it will give you a schedule of homework to do from the time that you do those diagnostics to the time that you put in that you're going to take the test. So if you're going to take a test in April, it'll say, here's kind of your weekly log of what you should be doing. And here's your test and quizzes. And, here's where you should be at when you take that test. So a great opportunity through Naviance Test Prep. And then the Khan Academy has partnered with the SAT to offer great free resources to help you with that SAT prep. So I really encourage you to look at that. Talking a little bit about the essay, the other piece of this. The essay certainly is a sample of how strong the student writes, but it also gives college admission officers an opportunity to look beyond that application and to see that student in a different light. And it really is an opportunity for that student, to paint a picture about themselves that maybe can't be gleaned from any other part of the process. And again, if you talk to admission officers, they'll say that's a big piece of it. We do have a lot of help here at Glenbrook South. This past year, we had a retired English teacher that came back and worked with students and really helped generate, topics. We have a lot of students that kind of struggle with what topic to write about, or what common application topic to write about. And this is his second year here at Glenbrook South. He's been very well received. He's booked solid. And so we'll talk more about that when we have you back in September about how to access him. But also in the TLC, there are tutors down there as well, writing tutors, that will go through and check, for the grammar. And so students have that opportunity as well. So life outside of high school. I think one thing that sometimes gets lost when we start to talk about extracurricular activities is, it's like, how many can I possibly be a part of? So that I can build up my resume. And it's really not about that. Think about depth. That's really what we're looking for when we talk about extracurricular activities. What do you have a passion for? What do you want to rise in the ranks? Do you want to be an organizer and leader within that particular extracurricular activity or club? Those are the types of things that really college admissions are looking for. And there's a great quote up here from the dean of Swarthmore, Jim Bach, where again he talks about we're looking for that depth. We're not looking for a laundry list of extracurricular activities. Okay? We want students that are invested in what they're doing. Again, we talked about this a little bit with the teacher versus counselor level. The counselor is going to kind of write about that big picture. So it's really important, again, that your son or daughter gets to know the counselor, which I know they already have. And then the teacher's going to write about what do they look like in the classroom. And I use the word anecdotal information. Almost every college trip that I'm on, when I talk to people in the college admissions office, and again, from my own experience, they want that anecdotal information. They want to hear, specifics about what a student did in the class that kind of went above and beyond the norm. Those are things that stand out. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a teacher that you got the A from. It could be a teacher that you got to see from, but you worked extremely hard and you went above and beyond what was asked in that particular classroom, where you demonstrated tremendous leadership skills within that class. So those are the types of things that they're looking for. So where do we start this process in terms of how to find a college? And we kind of came up with this, we call it the 5 Ps, and I think this is a good place for you to start your search. And we talk about preferences, we talk about programs, we talk about places, we talk about people, we talk about price. And so we're just going to go through these briefly in terms of things that maybe you should start thinking about in terms of steering your son or daughter towards this path. And so the first thing that we talk about for preference is really size. You know, do you want to look at a school like Michigan State, where you're going to have 40,000 students, great research opportunities, a big school, fraternities, sororities, you know, or do you want to look at a school like Ripon College, which is up in Green Lake, Wisconsin, a school of 963 students? Private versus public. A school like Carleton, University of Wisconsin. Again, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages of some of those larger public schools and those smaller private schools? How does your son or daughter feel sitting in a class of 10 or 12 students as opposed to 300 or 400 students in a lecture hall? Activities. You know, all schools are going to offer a different variety of activities, whether that be student government, performing arts, intramural sports. You know, do they have an ultimate frisbee team? Do they have a great dance team? Do they have a high percentage of students involved in sororities or fraternities? You know, what activities are your sons or daughters interested in, and does that particular school have those? Another preference. And then athletics, Division I, Division II, Division III. If you do have a Division I athlete, now would be the time that you want to start looking at the clearinghouse and going through that process. And you should go on the NCAA site and fill out that clearinghouse information so that you become eligible. So programs, and I know that a frequently asked question is, what's your major? And we work with our students sophomore year. We do a career interest inventory. I think the counselors talked about it during the presentation. And we start to develop ideas about maybe what they want to do. And we all know that, as you probably did, you may start with one thing and you may change your major several times in college. But some students, it's important for them to have a starting point. And there are certain schools that offer certain majors. For example, if you're looking for engineering, you know, there's specific schools out there that might only offer engineering. Schools like the University of Illinois or Carnegie Mellon. Or if you're thinking about the fine arts, okay, schools with great music conservatories like Oberlin and Lawrence University. So again, some of those specifics. Study abroad. That's a big thing for a lot of students nowadays in terms of, you know, does the school have a study abroad program and where can I go? What percentage of students study abroad? Does financial aid carry over if I do study abroad? So again, those are questions to ask. One overlooked program that I think I would love to see our students start looking at more is honors programs. Some of our top students should really be looking at some of these top honors programs at some of these schools. And I just listed a few. I was out in Arizona at Arizona State this past fall, and I had a great opportunity of sitting in on several discussions about the Barrett School honors program at Arizona State. Considered really the gold standard of honors programs in the country. In fact, they're number 3 in producing the number of Fulbright scholars in the country, well ahead of any of those Ivy League schools that you would want to mention. And these are great programs for our students where they can receive a lot of scholarship money and receive a tremendous education. And what's great about a lot of these honors programs is that you kind of get a small elite college experience with all of the resources of a Research One institution. And, you know, that I think has a lot of benefits. And again, you know, some of these schools that I listed up here would be great schools to look at if you want to look at some of these programs. Special programs. Some schools offer special programs like the 3-2 engineering program at Illinois Wesleyan, where you go to Illinois Wesleyan for 3 years and you earn your BA. And then you go 2 years at Washington University and earn a BS in engineering. And those of you who know about Washington University's engineering program, it's one of the top in the country. And so you follow the guidelines that they set out and make sure that you get the grades that they lay out, and then you get to transfer to Washington University after 3 years. Not for everybody. Some people wouldn't feel comfortable transferring if they get comfortable in school for 3 years. But again, there's some options out there. And so if you're interested in some of those, again, happy to talk to you about those. And then Union College has an 8-year medical program directly met with Albany Medical College. Place is always, I think, the difficult one. I think it's a conversation that really should start now, because I have a lot of students sometimes that come into my office and they have these grand plans of where they want to go. And it's much different than what you have planned for them. And so I think it's important to start laying down some of those ground rules in terms of what's realistic, transportation-wise, cost-wise. I really think it's, it's important. Are they going to commute? Are they going to live on campus? I think one thing that you should start to have the conversation about is, what type of setting do you want? Do you want that urban setting? And it's so easy to take them down to DePaul and have them see what that urban setting truly looks like. With schools like Columbia, George Washington, where it's going to be a real urban type feel for a student. I always get a kick out of a student that says, I want to go to an urban location. I say, do you spend time down in the city at all, Chicago? No, I don't like the city very much. You're going to go spend 4 years there. It's not going to change much. Okay. Suburban locations. Everybody would like to be at that bottom picture right now, right? That's Pepperdine and Malibu. Be a great place to spend 4 years. But again, we talk about some of those suburban settings like Northwestern, Butler. These are great schools that sometimes students say, I don't want to necessarily be in a city, but I want to be close to a city. I want to have proximity to a city. And so there's schools that we can find that, are just outside the city and provide a great opportunity for our students. And then you have schools that are in rural areas, like University of New Hampshire, Grinnell, the cornfields of Iowa, great university, a great college. And then University of Illinois, okay? Campus visits. I think so important to the college process. And I think the sooner that you start, the better. I met with a lot of students in the fall, seniors, that had come back to me, still not sure of a college list. Some of that because their list originally was not realistic in terms of the schools that they were looking at. And now, when it was time to do homework, they didn't have the time. Mr. Cousins, how am I going to go visit all of these schools now? There's no time left. Well, that's because this process should start now, because it's going to give you the time to go out and do the research at these schools and have the opportunity to step foot on campus. A lot of students that I talk to say, when I ask them, how did you finally decide on the school? They said, well, when I stepped foot on campus, I just knew. And maybe some of you out there had that same experience. And so the campus visit is so important to get that campus feel, to look around. How are kids dressed? How are they interacting with one another? What types of events are going on campus? What does the social life look like? What academic offerings are there? And I think a great time to visit is when school is in session. Summer visits are fine, but they're not going to give you the real vibe that I think you need to make that decision, that important decision. And so I think great times to visit. Spring break's a great time, because our spring break typically won't match up with college spring break, so that's a great time to go. Some of our institute days are great times. Take a day off of school and use it as a college day. But I think it's important to get out and see these schools when they're in session so that you get a vibe of the school. And when you're there, visit the admission office, visit the financial aid office, visit the placement office. I was just at Creighton University about 2-3 years ago. And it was a fantastic visit. And I will say that towards the end of that visit, I sat in the placement office for about an hour and a half. Now that's unusual. Most visits, they don't take you to the placement office. You see everything else, you see all the nice buildings. They don't And they certainly don't sit you down and let you be comfortable in the placement office. They spent an hour and a half with us talking about all the great things that they do for their students and the return on investment, the portfolios that they generate for their students, the interview skills that they give their students. I'm not saying that there's not other schools that do this, but that's a great place for you to spend some time and ask them those tough questions. Visit classes. I think it's so important for students to get a good vibe of what does the classroom look like? What does a lecture hall look like? What does a classroom of 10 or 12 students sitting around a table having a discussion, where you can't hide in the back of the room, where you're going to be involved in discussion, and you're going to have to defend your point of view. Do you feel comfortable in that? Or maybe that's a good thing for some students that, need to be pushed out of that comfort zone. Speak to students other than the tour guide. I worked in college admissions. I know the game. We take our best students. We brainwash them. We send them off with you on the tours and everything's hunky-dory. They show you all the best places. They talk about the wonderful experiences that they're having at the school. But it's so important to go off the beaten path. And I think cafeterias are a great place for that discussion to happen. Sit in a cafeteria, wander off the beaten path, introduce yourself to somebody sitting next to you, and that's not going to give you a little bit more of that canned response. And ask some of those difficult questions. And so I did give you a handout today about the college visits, and if you didn't get one, grab one on the way out. It's just some questions to get you started. You can Google some of these things too if you want to look for more questions when you get going. But I know last year after I gave this presentation, I got a lot of questions about what kind of questions should we ask on a college visit. So I thought I'd print that out today. And again, you can go on the internet and get more information about that. And then make sure you're looking at those facilities. What dorm room do I actually get to live in freshman year, not the one that you're showing me that was just recently built? Those types of questions, ask those hard questions. Pick up a campus newspaper. I think it's always great. Again, that will give you that vibe and that flavor of that particular school. Just real quickly, campus visits in terms of getting started. I talked a little bit about this before, but you don't have to go to the East Coast or the West Coast, down to to Florida to look at schools. You can start this search right here within a 2.5-hour radius. You can start with that large or small school, that urban or that mid-sized suburban, and start to look at some of these local schools, some great schools that are here. They don't necessarily have to be on your son or daughter's list, but you will get a flavor for that type of school, and that might help generate some other schools in your list. So we talk about people, and it's important, again, when you're on campus, you will see this, but each college has its own vibe in terms of diversity. School like Augustana College, you get about 80% of their student body is Caucasian, whereas a school like UCLA, 60% of the student body are going to be students of color. And so again, as you start to think about, that diversity, that cultural diversity, and there's also geographic diversity. This is the one that I think sometimes students never really even think about. Am I going to be going to college with students from the state, or is it going to be from the whole country? And how is that going to add to those discussions? How is it going to add to my personal growth? So a school like University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, 96% of the student body is from Wisconsin. But if you look at a school like Mount Holyoke, 79% of the students are from out of state, 25% from foreign countries. What a great dialogue in those classes that those students are having. And so, again, it's another great question when you're on a college campus. What is the percentage of in-state versus out-of-state population? I think it's always a great question to ask. I don't think students necessarily understand the benefit of that until they're actually at college and they see that. I'm just going to go quickly through financial aid because we will do a ton on financial aid coming up in September. But I talked a little bit about prior. But one thing that I want to talk about is the net price calculator, the FAFSA forecaster. So as you start to identify your lists and you want to get an idea of how reasonable that cost is going to be, every website under the financial aid section has something called the net price calculator where you can go on and you can put in financial information and some academic information, and it'll give you kind of a cost calculation of what that school might cost. So that's something that you could certainly be doing now. Some of these other things, the FAFSA you will fill out, we talked about that, and we'll talk about that more during our FAFSA night in September. Price, again, you should always take into account scholarships. The one thing I want to say about scholarships, I have a lot of phone calls from parents, and they're asking, where do I go for scholarships? How do I get the biggest scholarship? I'm looking for a little more. And a rule of thumb is this. Now, if you're looking at a school and you're expecting to get an academic scholarship, you want to be above where that mid 50% is in terms of GPA ACT. Okay? Because they're not going to offer a student who kind of fits right into their profile a ton of academic money. Okay? So that's always a good rule of thumb. The schools themselves are typically always going to be the best source of a scholarship. You can certainly look at places like FastWeb, where they'll have a variety of different scholarships that you can sign up for, anywhere from 500 to a couple thousand, and you'll get some smaller scholarships that way. But the colleges themselves are really the place that are going to offer you those opportunities. And many times, your application for admission, as long as you meet their deadline by the priority deadline, will qualify as an application for those merit-based scholarships. Not always, but a majority of the time. They'll let you know otherwise. So a couple hot topics, I'm just going to go through them real quickly. I put up here the rankings because some of you may or may not. I know that students come into my office with a list sometimes of the rankings, and sometimes that's the only, they literally have gone 1 through 10, and this is my list, Mr. Class, and these are the schools that I want to go to. And I just want to say a couple of things, So I was reading this book, and I don't know if anybody has read this book, but it's called Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be. And Frank Bruni's a wonderful columnist for the New York Times. And he wrote just an outstanding book about the college process. And I really encourage you to pick it up and read it because I think it's got some great wisdom in there. But one of the things that he talks about in here is he quotes a dean from Yale who was there for 8 years and retired in 2013. He was dean of admissions. Jeff Brenzel's his name. And he says, make no mistake, the publication of college rankings is a business enterprise that capitalizes on the anxiety about college admissions. And there's another quote from Adam Weinberg, who is a president at Denison. And he said, I think U.S. News & World Report will go down as one of the most destructive things that ever happened to higher education. So it's not something that's looked upon, at least by higher education people, as something real productive in the college search process. And I just, I bring that out here because, certainly the way that they go about those rankings, I mean, some of it is as trivial as, how many people actually gave to that college, alumni giving, whether it's $1 or $100. Other times it's sending out assessments to college admission professionals. And there's a quote in the book of one admission professional that says, I just put down my friends, and rank them higher because why wouldn't I? So in terms of the statistical things that are happening with those rankings, again, I just want you to be aware of what's out there. And then when we talk about raising the anxiety a little bit, it kind of goes to my next point about private college counselors. I've gotten a lot of calls in the last, year about should I hire a private college counselor? Am I going to be behind if I don't hire a private college consultant? And my answer is this. You've got wonderful resources here at Glenbrook South, okay? You pay taxes, certainly high taxes, they have great schools and great resources here. Since about 5 years ago, the private consultants have quadrupled in size in terms of those that are out there. And it's great in this book. I mean, on the East Coast, they're paying premiums of $50,000 to have their son or daughter from 9th grade until high school be tutored by these consultants. I mean, it's absolutely insane, some of the money that's being spent. And here's the thing. If you have the understanding that hiring a private college consultant is going to get you into a school, it's not going to happen. Your son or daughter and the work that they do is what's going to get them into any of the colleges that they want to look at, okay? The resources that we have here at Glenbrook South and the processes that we put in place are going to help your son or daughter get into college. That I can guarantee you. If there's a certain niche that a private consultant can help you with, great. We don't claim to know everything. If your son or daughter needs a tremendous amount of hand-holding to do the application, then a college consultant might be for you. But for everything else, we're here to help you. Okay? We'll bend over backwards to help you get the process done. All right? Early admissions, again, talking about early action. When it does come time to apply, we'll talk about this in September. Look for those early deadlines, and they're really moving up. Really, November 1st tends to be a really busy time now for college applications. So if you have that in mind, you'll be in pretty good shape. Early decision, there's a lot of talk about early decision, some of the statistical advantages of early decision, and there are. There's no doubt if you look at what schools are admitting at, the rate that they're admitting at from an early decision standpoint, it's much higher typically than regular decision. But with that comes a tremendous amount of responsibility as you look at early decision, because you're basically telling that school that you're my number one choice, and that I'm going to go there, and that if I wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden decide that maybe it's not the right school for me, that I don't have that opportunity to back out. And so, again, if students are doing their homework, we'll have that conversation. We always ask them to meet with both their counselor and myself on those early decisions, and then we talk about that. Demonstrated interest. I talked a little bit about this before, and it really, a lot of schools are starting to track demonstrated interest. They're tracking everything from an email sent to your son or daughter that's open. They're tracking campus visits. They're tracking things like, did you meet the rep when they came to Glenbrook South? Do you live within a certain area where you might be expected to come visit our school? All of those things are being documented by schools. And so what we did this year as college reps came through, we asked that question about demonstrated interest. Not all schools track demonstrated interest, although some schools may say they don't track demonstrated interest, but guess what? They're still tracking it, and they're just not telling us that. But our students have done a great job, and we really counsel our students on the fact that if you go to, or if a college rep comes in the fall to visit our school and you can't make it to that particular meeting, email the rep and tell them I had an AP physics test, or I had a US history test, or I couldn't make it. Could you please send me some information? I'm still very interested in your school. And our students will do that. And that is as good as, well, maybe not as good as, but they will look at that still as a demonstrated interest piece. That student made the effort, to reach out and email that particular one. So again, the more that you can get on campuses, interview with college admissions professionals, meet them at a college fair. Those are all things that they're keeping because yield is so important to schools. It matters in rankings, and again, colleges, although they don't like the rankings, they still have to play the game of the rankings because they know that that's where some folks are going to find those schools. So every school has, an idea of what their yield is going to be, and that demonstrated interest certainly helps clarify that process. Just a couple quick pointers before we end here. Think about your son or daughter's readiness factor. I see some parents that send their student off to college when they're not ready yet. Some students in junior college might be a better option for that. Okay, until that they seem like they're ready to venture out and live on their own and be independent. Do not take control of the process. Let your son or daughter lead in this process. Let them work and find some of those schools within the parameters that you've already created because you've communicated that. Make sure your son or daughter's apply to a range of schools. And reassure your son or daughter that you'll be proud regardless of the outcome. I really hope for you, this is my little Grace. She just graduated preschool. She's really excited. I know, I talk to you right now, you probably say that the time between this and you sitting here right now probably goes like that, and I know it's going to happen. But what I want is, by the time that you send your son or daughter off to school, that you've done the proper planning, that you've taken the time so that it doesn't become this stressful, anxiety-ridden process, because it really doesn't have to be. As I said before, 98% of our students went to college. They're going to find a college, and they're going to find a college that they're happy with. And let's make sure that the process and that the road along the way is a happy one, because it should be. This should be an exciting time, not a time of anxiety. So I appreciate you coming out tonight. I look forward to seeing you, and have a great night. I will take questions if anybody wants to hang back, but I certainly understand that it's getting late, so if you want to head home. So if you want to ask a question, we can kind of gather here in the front, and then we'll try to answer for the whole group.
Ideal that a student take the SAT and the ACT? They have that goal?
No, every college is taking.
You do.
So we really.
So it's not one of the option things?
No,
Better than
no. Some schools may require an SAT too, which is a subject class. But if the student has an ACT, that's good. It's about 2007. Okay? Yeah. So,
colleges come in the fall. We don't have spring visits. So really the next opportunity would be the college.
And then
Yeah. Don't look more at the essay.
When do you start meeting with juniors and their families?
So
I know you're a
really,
busy guy.
February is, is the start. So kind of this is kind of a kickoff.
Right.
And so anytime now, if you want to go on and
Because it does seem
schedule an
like
appointment.
one of my takeaways is that spring break would be a good time to start.
Absolutely.
Especially if you feel like
Yes.
in the fall, if we have an athlete who's going to be very busy in the
Yep.
fall, getting away.
So I would love for you to come in. Let's
Yeah.
get that list started
Okay.
so that you have it
Yeah.
before spring break.
We have a daughter contact you?
She can go on. So when we meet with all the students, we'll go and show them how to schedule an appointment.
Okay.
But if you go on to the College and Career tab
Yeah.
of our homepage, our homepage is not great. You don't have to find information. But you go on to the College and Career tab,
Yeah.
you'll see a link to my schedule.
Okay.
And then, you can just make sure that your son or daughter has a free period during that time.
Okay.
So that
And come with
they're
some
available.
idea.
You can or not.
Or just get the conversation.
Yep, we'll get the conversation started soon. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody comes with, different spots. I mean, it helps if you kind of have an idea of maybe where, size, just to get it going. But, I start with all different, yeah. Because I think, to the gentleman's point, I mean, you want to get out to visiting these schools and get some idea, the sooner the better. What I don't want is seniors coming like this. I've had a lot of seniors coming in. It's great. Really, this should be happening now. So,
It's great common sense advice.
thank
I
you.
just had a
Good.
coworker at work trying to sell me on the idea of a private counselor. I'm like,
It's
I'm
out
getting
there.
all this stuff here.
It's out
Like,
there. I'm
it's like,
telling you, it is amazing, and it's spreading like wildfire. That there's like this special thing that you're getting.
Yeah.
Read the book. I mean, if you go
I
get
have
this
that
book,
book, too.
it is a great read. Because he talks about there's a consultant for Ivy Line. So there's and I think what qualifies you to be a good private consultant is that you went to an Ivy League school, right? So you got in, so now you're a professional, yeah. And he talks about that this woman literally said, "I wish I could clone myself because I can't handle all the business." And she charges $24,000 for the platinum package. And I love the names.
Yeah.
It's like the platinum package. It's like, really, what exactly is that? It's.
Yeah.
And I can be honest, I know some of our students are starting to work with consultants, and what I would say too is come in, meet with me, and then if you're not happy, then go. But I mean, I've had students come in and look at the list and like, yeah, I would have given you this list and a little more. So start with me first.
Yeah.
That was probably
We got resources
$3,000.
here. Let's use it. So we are paying for it.
Absolutely, you're paying for great school district, and we're gonna provide it.
Well, great presentation.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for basketball. Yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, it's. Yeah. No, I mean, the thresholds are certainly not going to be, and even at like the Bear College, Arizona State, I mean, I think, their averages are like 3.7, 3.8, high, but again, kind of, right below that, the next, highly selective kind of grouping of schools.
It seemed like what she was telling me, like Michigan State is a huge school.
Yes, and all of these schools. And the other thing I love about it is that it basically, at some of the larger public schools, you're not doing as much writing, as you might do at a smaller, school. And so, when I talked to the student at Barrett Honors College, he said he was amazed at how much writing he had to do within the Honors College. And, there's a lot of help for him there, but that was a big adjustment for him. And I think that's it, because writing is a big part of what you're going to be doing and the rest of your life. So, yeah. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you back. Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to post it online. Yep. So tomorrow, we'll put a link up there. I hope the audio is good. Because I tend to walk
Just the
around.
slides themselves.
Yeah, the slides will be there, and the audio will be there, but sometimes it gets muffled because I don't use a microphone. I walk around, and so it should pick up the volume. I said I was going to stand close to the podium, which I didn't do tonight. But it's just, thank you. Well, I mean, typically you look at your academic classes, okay? And every school, once you get into that admissions process, it can be different for every school. So some may strip weight and then give you extra points for AP and honors courses, and so it's really hard to nail down what a particular school is going to, look for. But typically they're going to take the academic. Most schools, I mean, that's a good general. So that does not. If you transferred into GBS, what happens is, but your grades do. So it'll show all your grades. It just won't calculate the GPA for you. So those schools, what a lot of admission officers will do is they'll just recalculate the GPA for you. So it won't be a disadvantage at all. They'll still see those schools. Yeah, that would be considered. You're welcome. Thank you.
The meeting with the student, nice Patrick.
Hey, how you doing, Patrick? Hi, how you doing?
The meeting with you and us.
Yeah.
That's choosing the colleges or listing colleges?
Yeah, it's really really what I do is I help identify potential colleges, appropriate colleges. In the past I would have said yes. One thing we're limited by. I mean, in the past we used to have, and I don't know, did your son or daughter, is it son? Did he take the plan test or was that not?
No.
Yeah, because they did away with that. And so one of the things that ACT's been doing is getting rid of all the kind of the precursors up to the ACT. So they used to be able to look at a plan score and say, okay, here's what the extrapolated score for the ACT would be. Now we can't do that as much. So it is good to have some data about where if he's taking a practice test.
Well, he's taken.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he has a time zone. He's doing a prep.
But at least he has kind of a general.
Yeah. Well, I was going to sign him up for the April one.
No, that's good. That's a good one to take.
Okay, and then I was also going to sign up for the June one.
That's a good schedule.
Because he doesn't test it. So I got him in the professor. I got him signed up for the one here.
Good.
Just because the more practice he gets.
I agree. I mean, I think with these prep courses, as long as it's reasonable financially, that you give them as much exposure to it so that you can reduce some of that anxiety. For a lot of kids, but there are, more and more schools are starting to go test optional, where students don't have to even submit a test score if they're not great test takers. And you can go to fairtest.org to get that list. Go to fairtest.org, get a list of schools that are test optional. And so if the student has a high GPA, they want to look at not applying with the test, they can do that too. So
I just, he has no clue. And actually, we were thinking, he hasn't been to any college. He has no idea.
Yeah, so I would start with kind of some of the local colleges. Take them to a Lake Forest, a small liberal arts. Take them to U of I, or take them up to.
Well, I was actually maturity-wise too. He's a junior, so I'm looking at Oakton or Harvard or something.
To start.
Unless he makes a giant leap forward.
Makes perfect sense. Especially financially.
No.
That's
the other thing too. I get him accepted to a school.
Absolutely.
No, he can go. Does he go to Ford? No.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but no, I know what you're saying. It's not a bad idea now to say, okay, because here's the carrot, right? I think it's great to say, okay, what are you thinking about after these 2 years? Because that's the carrot. I think the biggest reason that some students fail at junior colleges is one of two things. Number one, they start working and they start making more money. They think, well, I can make more money. Why you know, I stay in school, right? They think, you know, that's good money, you know, and then number two, they're just truly not